Video, then you are trying to write a thesis statement that isn't as complex as the one that we've been learning throughout the year, but that is a little bit more pointed, not as specific, but will still get the job done, right? So I'm going to show you what you can do if after you've read this poem, and you've annotated it really well, but you just don't know what you're going to write about. I'm going to show you how you can begin approaching that, just in case you kind of run into that problem, okay? And again, everything I say here, just like the last one, applies to prose passage too, so not just poetry. All of this works for other things too. The other thing you need to keep in mind is that you need to make sure that you've read this poem to make sure that you understand everything I'm saying, and to also make sure that my annotations make sense to you. Okay, so after you annotate, oh, and also note that I didn't annotate the whole poem because I'm trying to save time here. You need to annotate the whole poem for the exam. Okay, this is just to show you an example. Anyway, after I'm done annotating, the next step I should do is not necessarily the thesis, though on my outlining paper, I would probably want to write a spot up on the thesis, and maybe I would just jot down like a concept or two that stands out to me, right? I'm definitely intrigued by the sexuality. I think this is going to be a concepts-heavy poem, the sexuality of the poem, and I'm also going to use the word sensuality because there's a lot of, in my opinion, there's a lot of sex in this poem. It's kind of a sexy poem. I think it also relates to another concept is gender, right? So I think there was quite a bit to do with gender, okay? And then I'm not sure what else there is. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of jump into an outline that is going to help me start to figure out what it is that I need to do with this poem. So I am going to do evidence analysis link point. Boop, 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 boop. Let's do a couple. So I'm going to do the table. Here's my evidence. Here's my analysis. Here's my link. And here's my point. Okay, so this is going to be the beginning of my outline, and you would draw this out on your paper, right? And each row is going to be representative of a pill paragraph, and I know that I need to have at least 5. So I'm going to look for my first piece of the first line that really drew my attention, and as a white stone draws down the fish, she on the seafloor of the afternoon draws down men's glances and their cruel wish for love. That's a lot. I'm going to piece it apart. She on the seafloor of the afternoon. Okay. I'm going to do as the white stone draws down the fish. I'm going to do that first. So that's line 1. Okay, and remember that if you're going to do this model, what you do is you start to unpack line 1. What is the literary device? Well, the word as is a simile. What's being compared? The white stone to she, which is a woman, right? Another piece of analysis. As this white stone draws down the fish, she on the sea floor. I hear a lot of S, right? And that's, if you didn't know, you can call it alliteration, but there's something soothing, and it also mimics the sound of rushing water, right? And then I also notice a white stone draws down. Look, you can hear that. The imagery of the stone weighing down. Stone drawing, the imagery and the diction. So that would be imagery and diction of being pulled down, right? And so what I notice, my overall, remember that link is the bigger interpretation. What I'm noticing is I'm noticing these ideas of the woman and attraction, right? So the stone is being used to emphasize the weight of attraction, which is saying that the woman is attractive, like a attractive and pure, like white stone. Okay, so and when I get to this, I'm going to maybe say Douglas uses a simile to compare a woman to a stone. So I've got my first pill paragraph. Okay, I don't know where it's going yet, so I'm going to go pick out another line. Draws down men's glances and their cruel wish for love. So lines 3 and 4. Lines 3 and 4. So as I'm looking at this, she on the seafloor of the afternoon. There's a metaphor. Metaphor, seafloor, and afternoon. Okay, and what's the effect of doing this? I'm thinking of seafloor in the middle of the afternoon is sunny. It's kind of dreamlike. There's a waviness about it, right? Makes you feel you're floating and light. So it's really helping with the mood for sure, that particular description. What else? It also juxtaposes nicely with the words draws down men's glances. So it emphasizes so draws down the diction, which is diction, emphasizes the weight of the stone in such a light mood. And then the last thing is that this is men's glances, are representative of, it's really like the sexuality is carrying the weight, right? So I might say something like, what is he trying to get at? He's trying to get at, if we talk about that sexuality carries a powerful weight to it in the middle of, or enough to attract and entrance an entire crowd. That's the main point I think I'm getting from here. And how do I want to introduce it? If I look at this, I want to say that this has a lot to do with mood. So I might say something like, Douglas establishes a dreamlike mood infused with the concept of sexuality. Okay, so that's going to be my third paragraph. I'm going to go down here. I notice red. Lines 4, the lips. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 4, 5, and 8. And I can do this. I'm going to bunch, because they all have something in common, right? So I'm going to pay attention to the first line, 4, slyly red lip on the spoon. So red lip is imagery because it's color and mouth, which is highly sexual. That's a sexual part of the body. It can be a sensual part of the body, right? Sorry, I'm getting rated R here, folks, but that's what the poem calls for. Line 5, slips in a morsel of ice cream. There's that S sound again. And we've got more imagery because we can taste the ice cream. And you'll hear my puppy barking in the background. Sorry if you do. The diction of slips in also connotes a sexual meaning. Right, so this is a highly sexual line. And then 8 along the table, carmined at the ends. And I know that carmined means red, and means her white hands have red fingernails, which is, we could say, sexy in many ways, but it's also like purposefully sexy, like she's painted her fingers this way. Okay, well, what's the main interpretation here? The main interpretation is that I think this last part, this woman exudes practiced and performed sexuality, meaning that it can be used to gain attention, right? And so I might say my point is Douglas is emphasizing the sexuality of the woman as a milky white stone. Okay, so I would just keep doing this, right? And I'm getting some ideas. Sexuality, what if I just did sexuality, sensuality, and gender, right? So I kind of have a thesis already. I could start, after just doing this, I go back to my thesis and I figure out Douglas is conveying concepts of sexuality, sensuality, and gender. Okay, there's my general thesis. I don't know why yet. I think I'm going to arrive at that at my conclusion, but I'll save that for later. What I'm going to do now, but this is essentially how you would begin outlining, right? If you have no idea where to begin, at least go to your paper, draw your evidence analysis link and point, and then start jotting down some ideas, right? Because that's where you're going to get your ideas, and that's how we actually start to develop some kind of thesis. And now I know I'm going to keep looking specifically along those lines. Okay, so watch the next video to determine how to actually take one of these and write a full pill paragraph.